Let me raise one other issue, which I'd like to hear your views on. We've spoken a bit in the last session also about value chains and the importance of looking outside the boundaries of your own company, looking for partnerships with the government, NGOs, and also with suppliers, and of course also with your consumers. One element of that which is potentially being unlocked is the prospect of co-innovation. So innovating products with your consumers and using that as a way of getting consumer buy-in, you know, at the stage of design, which is another thing that we've spoken about a bit, you know, going back to first principles, design. So I wondered if any of you wanted to talk about how those issues play in the sectors that you've been looking at and how you view those issues. Jay?
We spent a lot of time really talking about the lowest denominator, which is really the local community that is next door to the water resource or the forest, and how to get the relevant stakeholders together to agree upon a path forward that's good for the checks and balances that are needed in order for that community to survive and be sustainable and not to dry up or disappear. And so starting at that lowest denominator is really where you need to start to focus some of those thoughts. Those then feed into the regions, and the region has to look at, and if you're a mayor of a region or a governor of a region, how is that region's interacting points? Because they're going to have maybe 20 or 30 cities that will have all these strategies on how they're going to be sustainable. How do you roll that into a regional plan? And then how do you roll the regional plan into a state plan? And then how do you roll that into a country plan? With the idea of showing the benefits that being green and sustainable doesn't cost. It's actually the only way that we're going to be able to survive. So you have to get that across, and once you get that across, then you're starting to look at making decisions that outweigh one factor or another. Can you grow that same produce in this region now that you have historically because it's such a water user? Can we switch to something else that has less or get rid of it? Those are the kind of decisions you have to deal in a region, and sometimes it's cultural based, political, and technically based.
Katrina?
I would have
Oh, sorry.
make you exercise a bit. I would have an answer, but less as a representative of the group, but rather as a representative of DHL, because we have actually done several green products together with, or invented several green products together with our customers. One is, for example, a carbon dashboard which we've developed with a customer, and it's kind of a software where they can slice and look at carbon data the way they need it and control their carbon data. Another one is carbon neutral shipping service, where we found out that customers would actually be willing to offset the carbon produced by a shipment. However, they have not the knowledge to know what would be reliable and good credits, not to have it as greenwashing. So if you provide, we found out if you provide the whole service, you have an external certification company that certifies the methodology we calculate this with, we have all the systems, and we make sure we have the right projects with the right standards, they would actually buy it. And we brought this to the market in 2006, and I think by now many logistics companies have copied it, and it's within DHL the fastest growing product that we have. So these are only two examples where we've seen that what you said actually works very well, including the customer in developing new service ideas around green.
Alex.
I think one of the best examples I've seen recently is the development of concentrated detergents, washing liquids, where you if you go on YouTube, you'll find 5 or 6 different organizations claiming that they initiated the development of clean detergents, including Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, a kind of a green startup company in the space, and others. And clearly, in fact, the originator of that was women who found the ever growing size of liquid detergent bottles weighing 5 kilos and more far too heavy, and the feedback from the user was what sparked all of those groups to start figuring out ways to make concentrated powder that was effective and would convince the mainly women who do most of the world's washing that actually the lighter product was also a better product. And it's been quite a dramatic change, but it can only really have come from the consumer, because otherwise people wouldn't have been confident buying it. There's a nice example of co-creation.
These are nice examples which show that it actually works in a business setting. In other words, sustainability works, but it's also sustainable business. It works commercially. And I think that's very, very key. If there's not a question in the audience, then I presume that must be... Oh, sorry, there is. Where? Yes, please. Very, very quickly.
Thank you. My name is Chris from Binabangsa School, and I would like to ask a question to the Transport Working Group. What do you think is a viable solution for traffic problems in Jakarta, and how do you implement it while at the same time reduce carbon emission produced by cars? Please take into account that Jakarta is quite a big city with a big population, most of which are quote-unquote dumb users, and we fall into the low to mid-income class.
That's a simple problem for you, Katerina, to solve in the next 30 seconds.
We'll all appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know Jakarta very well, but didn't take me long to understand that this is a problem, because my assistant had calculated the time that I would need from the airport to this hotel with 15 minutes. And when I arrived, I think he looked it up on Google Maps, and when I arrived here, I had taken 2 hours and 15 minutes, so...
You have a very optimistic assistant.
I sent him a message to say that maybe we need to do this differently next time. So we actually talked about that problem, and of course the answer is not very simple, otherwise I think someone else would have solved this problem before. We had different ideas on the problem, so let me just pose them to you, and you can choose the ones that you find most suitable. I've named already a few. I mean, one could be to limit the number of vehicles within the city. For example, if you have logistics providers, have only one do all the distribution and pack it all and have full vehicles rather than everyone running around with one. Of course, that would mean some sort of monopoly for one provider, which I'm not sure whether that's possible.
Katerina, by the way, works for DHL.
Yeah, sorry. Of course, we would be happy to volunteer for that task. And if you look at public transportation, maybe other big cities, I mean, although it's difficult to find one that's comparable, could be a good inspiration for that, also to limit or put a high tax on certain ways of transportation. And the third one would probably be to find a smart public transportation system. I understand the buses are doing already quite well, but what I heard is that several people, at least in our group, would also be willing to cycle, but they fear, for once, that they will be run over, and second, that probably they'll do something good for exercising, but at the same time, with all the smog and the and the emissions they breathe in, they fear it might actually be more dangerous to bike. So maybe finding a way to have, and I'm not talking about motorbikes, but bicycles, to have that. I think that would be, not sure whether that solves everything.
Thank you very much indeed, Katerina. We're already over time, so unless anyone has a burning idea that they wish to put out there, I'd like it if you could join me in thanking our excellent panel, who've done a very, very good job.